In this video we're going to take a look at Manager, which is an easy mobile challenge, and the description says, a client asked me to perform a security assessment on his password management application. Can you help me? So we've got a server to connect to. I've already booted that up. I've already downloaded the files. We've got a APK file and a README which just says install this application in API level 29 or earlier, Android 10.0. In order to connect to the server when first running the application, insert the IP and port that you provided in the description. So we've been given an IP and a port here. We could also go and try and open this up in the browser, just see if we get anything, but we don't. Let's go and take a look at the APK. There's a couple of approaches you could use here. We could unpack the APK file and go and have a look at some of the small files, or we can open it up with JADX-GUI, which will give us a decompiled version of the code. So quite close to the original Java code that we would see. Let's go and open it up. We could also run this, as was mentioned in the README, we could go and install this in an emulator. I use Android Studio normally, so we'll go and do that shortly. Let's just have a quick look at the code. We've got our example manager. So we've got a build config, edit activity, login activity, main activity, and a register activity. So it looks like we can register an account, we can log into an account, we can maybe edit the account, and then we've just got a main function to run it all together. So we've got a HTTP URL being created here, and that's going to be our IP address and port number that we've been given. If we have a look at the register function, we can see it's going to take in a username and a password, and we know now what the post parameters should be. We can see what headers are going to be used as well, so maybe we can go and recreate some of these post requests. And it's going to check to see if the username exists before creating an account. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create one for us. Let's see what we've got, the login form. Login again, similar request is being sent off here with the username and password. We can see the headers being used, and it's going to make sure that a user exists. If it does, it's going to bring us back the user. Let's take a look at edit. So we have an ID, we have a username, we have a password, and we have a role. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see what the roles are. It's going to make sure the user exists. And if we try to update the user, we can see again it's going to take a username and password, and we can update the password on the account. Okay, so let's go and take a look at it in Android Studio. Again, we can use this just to emulate different Android devices. So I'm going to go to More Actions, Profile or Debug in APK. We'll open up the APK. This might run a bit quicker for me than if you try it on your system because I've already had it opened. But essentially we open it up and we can debug it, or we can just run it. I'm just going to run it here just so we can get an idea what the functionality is on the device. So it asks us for an IP address and a port to connect to. So let me move this over here. Let's open up HackTheBox again, and let's type in this IP. We've got 161.35.47.235, and then our port is 30184. And before I connect to that, let me also open up Wireshark. Let's grab this IP and port, and we'll capture all traffic, but I'm going to say IP.address equals and TCP.port equals, just so we can get that traffic specifically. Now let's try to connect. We didn't actually get any traffic. Okay. Let me just specify only that. We don't really need to specify the port. Still nothing. Alright, let's try and log in. Okay, so that showed. I guess it doesn't make the connection until we actually try to log in. But now we can have a look at this post request and see what we've got. So it's sent off our username and our password, and we got user not found. So we're just basically doing the same thing that we did in JADX-GUI. Just want to show that we've got two different ways that we can try to understand the application. We can do it statically by decompiling the code or disassembling the code if we weren't using JADX. Or we can use something like Android Studio and combine it with network traffic analysis to see what's actually happening in the background. So we could go and do the same thing. Let's have a look. Let's go back and create a new user. I'll create this user test. And we've got this option then to update our password. That's the only functionality we have. We've got this member role, but we can't actually select that to update it to admin. The only thing we can do is change our password. So let me try and change that to test2. And let's update. Notice we've also got the ID option there, which we couldn't modify. So if we were able to control that ID parameter, maybe we could set that to 1, which is likely to be the admin. And maybe we could set the role to admin instead of member. Okay, so returning to Wireshark, we can have a look and see what was happening in these other requests. Okay, let me set the IP address again. And here's our post to register, so we can take a look at that. Have a look and see what kind of parameters are sent and what's sent back. This is sent back in JSON. So we might just need some of these in terms of the content type. Sometimes other headers will be required, but if we want to go and recreate this in Burp Suite or something, we'll need to bear in mind what these headers are set to. And we've got our manage as well. Let's take a quick look at it and then let's go and solve the challenge. And there's our manage. So again, we've got a username, we've got a password, but we know that we also had an ID and a role. So if we were to go and send this request to repeater, maybe we could just go and change the role or update the password for an ID that's not belonging to us. Okay, so let's do exactly that. We've already got this open anyway. I'm gonna reload that. In fact, let's go to register.php. Oh, also another thing that we could have done here, without even looking at the code or running the application in an emulator, we could have just done GoBuster or fuff or something to identify the files. So let me grep out my GoBuster command from bash aliases. So I normally just run this command. We've got a preset word list which I don't bother changing, and it's in directory mode, so I'm just going to say GoBusters. Let's paste in that address and then say we want to look for PHP extensions. And very quickly we find our login and register.php, and there's our config.php, which I wasn't even expecting. There's manage.php. So yeah, there's another option. Let's now send this register to the repeater. So I'm going into Burp Suite, send it to the repeater, and let's go modify this. We need to change our content type, so we'll do content type application /x www form URL encoded, which we saw in Burp Suite, and we want to say our username is equal to, let's say, test, our password is equal to test, and let's try and set the role equal to admin. We want to make sure it's a post request, of course. Submit. It says the username is already taken. Let's try that again. Oh, it's because I've done that in Android. Okay, let's do test2. Let's set the role to admin again and submit. Okay, looks good, except it didn't set a role to admin, it set the role to member, which isn't good. Let's check out this manage page and let's try and change the admin's password to admin. We don't need to change their role, it should be admin already. We get password updated successfully. Let's try to log in. And there we get back, we are the admin, ID 1, role is the flag. So yeah, there's a couple of ways you could have approached this challenge. You could also put together a quick script if you want to practice your Python or anything. So here's a script which just needs the URL inserted. Let's grab it. HTTP, and yeah, we've got a username and a password, which is admin. We want to set the password to admin, so that's the first thing we're going to do is manage, send off a post request with those values, and then we're going to log in with those and then just print out the request and the response as they come. So Python exploit, we run through that, we can actually see our request headers as they go off, the URL, the requested headers, the data, post data, and then the response. So we do that first of all to change the password, and then we do it again to log in and retrieve the flag. So yeah, that's been the manager challenge. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thanks.